In the eerie gloom of the rain-soaked night, the Watts family home stood as a haunting reminder of its sinister past. The dilapidated Victorian mansion shrouded in a web of ivy that seemed to whisper tales of its own. Inside, beneath the weight of heavy curtains, the once warm hearth was cold and unlit, the silence only punctuated by the soft dripping of water from the ceiling. It was in this somber atmosphere that the lives of the Watts family were about to unravel into a tragic tapestry of blood and deceit. As the clock struck midnight, the family patriarch, Thomas Watts, sat in his leather armchair, a glass of aged brandy in hand, his eyes reflecting the flickering candlelight as he read the ominous letter that had arrived moments earlier. It spoke of a long-buried secret, a dark family legacy that had been hidden from the world, a legacy that would soon claim the lives of every member of the Watts family. One by one, as the shadows crept closer and the storm raged on, its fury echoing through the corridors of history and terrorizing the souls of those bound to the cursed home. In the sleepy town of Maplewood, where the scent of freshly baked bread mingled with the sweet aroma of blooming flowers, the Watts family resided in a modest yet charming bungalow on the edge of the forest. It was a family known for their warm smiles and tight-knit bond, a beacon of normalcy in an otherwise tranquil community. Yet, on the unassuming evening of July 15, 1982, the idyllic facade of the Watts home was shattered by a series of chilling events that would forever etch the name Watts family murders into infamy. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the house, as Mrs. Evelyn Watts, a beloved schoolteacher, prepared dinner for her husband, Robert, and their two children, 15-year-old Emily and 12-year-old Mark. Little did they know, darkness was about to envelop their lives. As the family sat around the dinner table, laughter and cheerful chatter filled the room, a stark contrast to the terror that was about to unfold. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the harmony, and the world as they knew it crumbled into an abyss of horror. Without warning, the front door burst open, and a masked figure, wielding a blood-stained knife, lunged into the living room. The air was thick with the scent of fear as Mrs. Watts, her eyes wide with terror, tried to shield her children. Robert, a retired firefighter, sprang into action, but the attacker was relentless. With each swing of the knife, the Watts family's once peaceful existence was reduced to a symphony of screams and the sound of breaking bones. The attacker moved with the efficiency of a seasoned professional, dispatching each member of the family with ruthless precision. Emily, the oldest, tried to fight back, but her slender arms could not match the brute strength of her attacker. Mark, younger but no less fierce, lunged at the intruder, but his small frame was no match for the brute force. And then, in the span of mere moments, the world that had been the Watts family's sanctuary became a scene of unadulterated terror. The attacker, breathing heavily, stood over the bodies, his eyes cold and calculating. With a final, brutal stab, he completed his grim task. The sound of the knife-piercing flesh was the final note in the orchestra of horror. As the night grew darker, the townspeople of Maplewood would awaken to the grim reality that had befallen the Watts family. The community would be forever altered, their innocence shattered by the brutal and senseless murders. And for the surviving family members, the haunting memories of that night would haunt them for the rest of their lives, a reminder that even the most tranquil of places could be a breeding ground for darkness. In the hushed, sallow light of an overcast dawn, the Watts family mansion lay dormant, a colossal shadow against the gray sky. The grand iron gates, ornate with twisted vines and forlorn faces, creaked open with a sorrowful groan, revealing the sprawling estate's silent guardians, the ancient, gnarled oaks that stood watch over generations of wealth and secrets. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of dust and decay, as if the very walls were suffocating under the weight of untold tales. The mansion's grand hall, once a place of laughter and celebration, now echoed with the hollow sound of a lifeless home. The centerpiece of this eerie tableau was the grand piano, its keys tarnished with neglect, its lid ajar, revealing the dusty pages of forgotten melodies. But it was the library, a sanctum of knowledge and solitude that held the key to the family's dark past. There, beneath the weight of a massive chandelier, a single, flickering light illuminated the leather-bound tomes and cryptic diaries, each page whispering secrets of betrayal, love, and tragedy. It was there, amidst the shadows and silence, that the Watts family's grim legacy would soon be unearthed, a tale of murder and madness that would shatter the world's perception of the seemingly perfect family. In the heart of a once tranquil neighborhood, where the laughter of children mingled with the gentle hum of streetlights, the Watts family lived their lives in the shadows of their seemingly perfect facade. The sun rose and set with the monotonous rhythm of everyday life, but beneath the surface, a storm brewed. The youngest, Emma, with her emerald eyes and porcelain skin, often gazed out her window, dreaming of the world beyond the confines of her home. Her parents, Sarah and Thomas, were the epitome of domestic bliss, their love for one another as deep as the ocean, but even the most serene seas can hide the most treacherous currents. The oldest child, Lucas, was a prodigy, his mind a whirlwind of ideas and ambitions. But as the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the family's facade began to crack, revealing the darkness that lurked within. One fateful evening, as the moon hung low and the night air grew colder, the Watts family would shatter the tranquility of their neighborhood, their secrets spilling out into the world, a macabre ballet of deceit and death that would leave an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of all who dared to look too closely. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered secrets to the old oaks, the Watts family had always been the embodiment of domestic tranquility. Their sprawling estate, a grand affair of ivy-covered walls and towering pines, stood as a testament to their prosperity and good standing within the community. The Wattses, with their impeccable taste and generous hearts, were the darlings of social events, their laughter echoing through the halls of their grand manor. But as the golden sun dipped below the horizon on a tranquil autumn evening, a shroud of darkness enveloped the town, and the Watts family's idyllic facade crumbled into a nightmarish abyss. The townsfolk awoke to the chilling discovery of the brutal murders of the Watts patriarch and matriarch, their bodies found in the ornate conservatory, surrounded by the most beautiful of their rare botanical collection now stained with their blood. The police, baffled by the absence of forced entry and the inexplicable cruelty, delved into the lives of the Wattses, only to unearth a web of deceit, greed, and betrayal that had been meticulously woven beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect existence. In the hushed and sun-dappled town of Willow Creek, nestled between the whispering pines and the gentle murmur of the babbling brook, the Watts family had always been the epitome of tranquility and normalcy. Their quaint, ivy-covered cottage, nestled at the end of a winding, tree-lined lane, was a sanctuary of laughter and love, a haven where dreams were woven into the tapestry of everyday life. Yet, as twilight cast its long, ominous shadow over the sleepy hamlet, a storm of darkness would descend upon the Watts' idyllic existence, shattering the peace and unraveling the very fabric of their lives. For on a night that would be etched into the annals of infamy, the gentle hum of Willow Creek would be replaced by a cacophony of horror as the Watts family, a family of 5, would meet their tragic end in a sequence of events that would send shockwaves through the community and shatter the illusion of safety for all. The townsfolk would wake to the chilling discovery of the Watts' bodies, each one lying in a pool of their own blood, their lives snuffed out by an unseen hand, their faces frozen in expressions of shock and terror. And as the investigators delved deeper into the mystery, they would uncover a web of secrets, deceit, and betrayal that would link the Watts family to a dark past they had never known, a past that would reveal the chilling truth behind the most heinous crime in Willow Creek's history. In the shadowed hollows of a desolate, rain-swept town, the Watts family resided in a sprawling, ivy-clad mansion that whispered tales of yesteryear's prosperity. The mansion, a grand relic of a bygone era, stood as a silent sentinel against the encroaching modernity that clawed at its decrepit walls. Inside, the Wattses led lives as ordinary as their neighbors, save for the peculiar glow that seemed to emanate from their home, a curious anomaly that had become the stuff of local legend. But on a fateful night, when the storm clouds unleashed their fury, a darkness unfurled within the mansion's cavernous heart, shattering the tranquility of the Watts family and unraveling the fabric of their lives forever. As the first drops of rain pelted the windows, a series of chilling events began to unfold, each more harrowing than the last, culminating in a nightmarish sequence of murders that would forever etch the Watts family's name into the annals of infamy. In the heart of a bustling metropolis, where the hum of city life blended seamlessly with the symphony of neon lights, the Watts family resided in a quaint, ivy-covered mansion that seemed out of place amidst the towering skyscrapers. The mansion, a relic of a bygone era, stood as a silent sentinel to the secrets it harbored within its walls. It was an idyllic setting for the Wattses, a family of renowned scientists and philanthropists whose laughter echoed through the halls and whose generosity was well known across the land. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the grand estate, a shroud of dread began to descend upon the once peaceful abode. The mansion, once a beacon of warmth and light, now felt like a tomb, its grand ballroom transformed into a scene of macabre horror. The bodies of the Watts family, including the matriarch, patriarch, and their 3 children, lay strewn about, their lifeless eyes staring vacantly at the ceiling. The police arrived at the scene, their faces etched with shock and disbelief as they pieced together the chilling puzzle of the Watts family murders. The mansion, once a sanctuary, now stood as a grim reminder of the darkness that could lurk even in the most unsuspecting places, and the chilling question that would linger in the minds of everyone who ever knew the Watts family was not just who, but why. In the heart of a picturesque coastal town, nestled between towering cliffs and the relentless roar of the ocean waves, the Watts family had always been known for their tranquil existence, a beacon of normalcy in a world that often seemed to teeter on the edge of chaos. The Wattses, a close-knit clan of 5, lived in a sprawling, century-old mansion that seemed to whisper secrets of its storied past with every creak of its ancient floorboards. The matriarch, Eliza Watts, was a gentle soul whose laughter could be heard echoing through the halls, a sound that seemed to warm the very air around her. Her husband, Thomas, was a successful attorney whose wisdom and integrity were the pillars upon which the town's justice system rested. Together, they raised their 3 children, Sarah, who was an aspiring artist with a penchant for painting the world in vibrant hues, Alex, a bright and curious child who could often be found buried in a stack of books, and Emily, the youngest, whose infectious giggles and boundless energy were the lifeblood of the family. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the tranquil sea, the Watts mansion was a sanctuary of love and laughter, a place where dreams were nurtured and futures were forged. But on a fateful night, as the stars began to twinkle in the velvet sky, the sanctuary was shattered, and the Watts family would forever be entangled in a web of darkness and mystery that would leave the entire town reeling in shock and disbelief. The Watts family had been a beacon of normalcy in the otherwise chaotic town of Rivertown, their sprawling estate nestled at the edge of the lush green forest like a fortress of tranquility. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the sprawling gardens, the family gathered in their grand dining room for dinner, a nightly ritual that had been a cornerstone of their lives. The aroma of roasted chicken and sautéed green beans filled the air, mingling with the soft murmur of conversation as the family shared stories and laughter. But tonight, as the clinking of silverware against porcelain grew more distant, a sense of dread began to seep into the room, an unsettling feeling that something was about to shatter the delicate tapestry of their peaceful existence. Without warning, the tranquility was shattered by a sudden commotion outside, the sound of breaking glass and the shrill cries of terror that cut through the silence like a knife. The family, in a panic, pushed back from the table and rushed to the windows, their eyes widening in horror as they witnessed a spectacle that would forever alter the course of their lives. Outside, in the eerie glow of streetlights, a figure clad in darkness emerged from the shadows, a silhouette of malice and violence that seemed to embody the very essence of evil. With a swift motion, the figure pulled a switchblade from a hidden pocket and approached the estate with a purpose that was chillingly clear. The Watts family, caught in the crosshairs of a fate they could never have imagined, knew that their world was about to come crashing down around them. In the eerie stillness of the small town of Willowbrook, nestled amidst the whispering pines and the rustling leaves, the Watts family's tranquil existence was shattered on a fateful evening, as the setting sun painted the sky in hues of fiery orange and deep indigo. The family, a close-knit trio of parents and 2 children, had always been the embodiment of suburban idyll, their laughter echoing through the neighborhood, their home a sanctuary of warmth and joy. But on that night, when the last rays of the sun dipped below the horizon, a sinister force crept into their lives, an evil that would shatter their world into fragments of horror and despair. As the first stars began to twinkle in the night sky, the town's peace was shattered by a sound so gut-wrenching it seemed to rend the very fabric of reality. A single, piercing scream that shattered the silence like a glass window, echoing through the streets and into the hearts of the sleeping townsfolk. The Watts home, once a beacon of happiness, became a haunting reminder of the darkness that could lurk in even the most unsuspecting corners of life. The authorities arrived quickly, their flashing lights slicing through the night, and with them came the overwhelming scent of fear and the chilling realization that nothing in Willowbrook would ever be the same again. In the shadowed hollows of a once idyllic neighborhood nestled between the sprawling metropolis and the whispering woods, the Watts family had always been a beacon of tranquility, their laughter echoing through the streets like a melody of contentment. The old, weathered house at the end of Maple Street, with its sprawling garden brimming with colorful blooms and the occasional butterfly flitting about, was the heart of their world, a sanctuary where love and laughter reigned supreme. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the quaint houses, a dark storm was brewing, one that would shatter the tranquility and leave the community in shock and disbelief. It was a night like any other, the moon hanging low and the stars twinkling in the velvet sky, when the Watts family's idyll was shattered by a series of events that would become the stuff of local legend, the Watts family murders. In the shadowy alleyways of a sprawling metropolis, where the city's pulse thrummed with an ominous rhythm, the Watts family lived in a house that whispered tales of old. It was a modest home, nestled between towering skyscrapers, its ivy-covered walls whispering secrets to the wind. The Watts family was a close-knit unit, bound by love and loyalty, but even in their sanctuary, shadows danced at the edges of their world. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the neighborhood, the family gathered in their living room, the warmth of the hearth a stark contrast to the chill that seemed to seep from the walls. Little did they know, that night would be the beginning of a harrowing chapter that would shake the very foundation of their lives. The streets were quiet, save for the distant hum of traffic, but the family felt an unsettling presence, as if an unseen force was watching them. As they settled into their evening routine, the true horror was about to unfold, unraveling the fabric of their lives and leaving a trail of tragedy that would echo through the ages. In the shadowed alleys of a city long forgotten by time, the Watts family resided in a sprawling mansion that whispered tales of prosperity and decay. The mansion, once a beacon of opulence, now stood as a monument to the family's tragic past. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of old wood and forgotten dreams, while the walls echoed with the echoes of laughter and sorrow. The head of the family, Thomas Watts, was a man of immense wealth and power, his name synonymous with influence and success. Yet beneath the polished veneer of his empire, a darkness simmered, a darkness that would soon boil over in a series of events that would shake the very foundations of the city. It was a night like any other when the mansion's grand doors creaked open, and a shadow slipped silently through, a harbinger of doom. The Watts family, oblivious to the storm that was about to engulf them, would soon find themselves caught in a maelstrom of murder, mystery, and the relentless pursuit of truth. In the heart of the sun-drenched city of Los Angeles, where the glittering skyscrapers kissed the azure sky, the Watts family lived in a modest yet charming bungalow nestled in the verdant embrace of a tranquil neighborhood. The Watts, a close-knit clan of 5, had always been known for their unassuming nature, their laughter echoing through the cobblestone streets as they went about their daily lives, the children playing hide and seek in the backyard, the parents sharing stories over steaming cups of coffee. But on that fateful night, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the lawns, a darkness descended upon the Watts family, a darkness that would shatter their peaceful existence and plunge the city into a maelstrom of shock and disbelief. The first indication of the impending tragedy was a series of eerie whispers carried on the night breeze, warnings that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, an omen of doom that none could ignore. And as the first rays of dawn began to pierce the veil of night, the Watts family would be forever changed, their lives irrevocably altered by a series of chilling events that would unravel the very fabric of their once peaceful existence, leaving behind a tapestry of sorrow, mystery, and the haunting echoes of a family forever torn apart by the unfathomable. In the shadowed alleys of a bustling metropolis, where the hum of neon signs clashed with the whispers of the night, the Watts family resided in a modest brick house that seemed to hold the secrets of generations past. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a crimson glow over the neighborhood, as the family gathered in their living room, the scent of fresh-baked cookies mingling with the faint hint of smoke from the fireplace. It was a night like any other, until a sudden explosion echoed through the street, shattering the tranquility of their home. The family, including the patriarch, Harold Watts, his wife, Eliza, and their 3 children, ages 12, 9, and 7, were caught in the crosshairs of a brutal crime that would soon become the stuff of urban legends. The nightmarish sequence of events unfolded with chilling precision, as the once peaceful Watts household became the focal point of a gripping mystery that would captivate the city for years to come. In the eerie silence of the small town of Willow Creek, the Watts family was known for their unassuming demeanor, their lives woven seamlessly into the fabric of the community like threads in a tapestry. The morning sun cast a golden glow through the leaves of the ancient oak trees that lined the winding road leading to their modest home. But beneath that tranquil surface, a dark undercurrent of secrets swirled just below the surface. As the first light of dawn filtered through the window, the family awoke to a world that was about to shatter into 1,000 fragments, for as they stepped out into their backyard, they discovered the lifeless bodies of their neighbors, the Smiths, sprawled on the grass, their eyes wide with shock and their faces contorted in terror. The police arrived like avenging angels, their sirens piercing the stillness, and the Watts family was forced to confront the chilling truth that would soon unravel the very foundations of their lives. As the investigation deepened, the townspeople's whispers grew louder, casting suspicion like a shadow over the once serene Watts household, and the family was left to grapple with the terrifying reality that their lives were about to become entangled in the web of a haunting mystery that would change everything they knew about love, trust, and the dark secrets that lurk in the quietest corners of the human heart. In the hushed hamlet of Willow Creek, nestled between rolling hills and a whispering river, the Watts family had thrived for generations, their name a beacon of prosperity and stability. The sun dipped low behind the silhouetted pines, casting an amber glow over the quaint cottages and cobblestone paths, as if nature itself whispered tales of the Watts' idyllic life. Yet beneath this serene facade, a dark storm brewed, and on the fateful night of a silver moon, the tranquility shattered into a symphony of screams and sorrow. The townsfolk awoke to the ghastly spectacle, the Watts mansion now a haunting testament to the unimaginable horror that had befallen the once esteemed family. The police arrived, their uniforms stark against the somber backdrop. And as they combed through the scene, a chilling puzzle unfolded, one that would unravel the very fabric of this once peaceful community and plunge Willow Creek into a winter of unrelenting dread. In the quaint, picturesque town of Willow Creek, where the whispering willow trees swayed gently in the evening breeze and the sweet scent of blooming jasmine filled the air, the Watts family lived a seemingly perfect life. They were known for their warm smiles, their vibrant home filled with laughter, and their unwavering commitment to each other. The sun always seemed to shine brighter on their modest, two-story house with its white picket fence, and their children, with their golden curls and sparkling eyes, were the talk of the town. But behind closed doors, the idyllic facade hid a dark, chilling secret that would shatter the tranquility of Willow Creek forever. One cold, moonlit night, when the world was sleeping, the Watts family would be forever altered in ways they could never have imagined, as a shadowy figure crept into their lives, a monster born from the very darkness they had never known existed. In the eerie silence of a small, sun-dappled town nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, the Watts family had always been the embodiment of tranquility, their home a quaint, ivy-clad cottage that seemed to breathe with the rhythm of nature. But on a crisp autumn evening, as the golden leaves danced in the cool breeze, a shiver of dread crept through the community when the chilling news broke. A series of brutal murders had left the Watts family in a shroud of sorrow. The townsfolk, once bound by the warmth of their shared existence, now found themselves frozen in fear, the once peaceful streets echoing with whispers of the unknown. Detective Clara Hayes, a woman with a reputation for her unyielding determination, arrived on the scene with a resolve that matched the darkness that had descended upon the town. As she stepped into the Watts home, the scent of decay mingled with the lingering aroma of freshly brewed coffee, a haunting reminder of the lives that had been cruelly stolen. The scene was surreal, the furniture strewn about, as if the very walls had been torn apart by the hands of a vengeful specter. Clara's eyes scanned the room, searching for any clue that might unravel the mystery, but the only thing that remained was a haunting silence, a silence that spoke volumes about the horror that had unfolded within these walls. The townspeople had whispered of strange occurrences in the weeks leading up to the murders, tales of eerie whispers and ghostly apparitions that had been dismissed as mere folklore. But now, as Clara delved deeper into the lives of the Watts family, she discovered a web of secrets and lies that twisted the very fabric of their existence. The story of the Watts family murders was just beginning, and it was a tale that would unravel the darkest corners of human nature, forcing Clara to confront the most terrifying truths of all. The moon hung low and pale, casting an eerie glow over the quiet neighborhood where the Watts family lived. It was a quaint, old-fashioned area with ivy-draped houses and narrow, cobblestone streets, but the serene facade belied the dark storm brewing within the confines of the Watts' abode. The night was calm, almost too calm, and the wind whispered through the trees like a ghostly lullaby. Inside, the Watts family, consisting of the doting parents, John and Mary, their spirited teenage son, Alex, and their youngest, the curious and imaginative 8-year-old Lily, were unaware that their lives were about to be shattered by a force far more sinister than the shadows that danced outside their windows. The air was thick with tension, as the family gathered in the dimly lit living room, a place where laughter and warmth once reigned supreme, to discuss the mundane details of daily life. Little did they know, their simple evening was about to unravel into a harrowing tapestry of murder, mystery, and heart-wrenching tragedy. In the hushed, sun-dappled town of Willowbrook, nestled between the whispering pines and the placid waters of Lake Serafina, the Watts family had always been a beacon of tranquility and prosperity. Their sprawling, colonial home, with its grand white pillars and sprawling gardens, was a testament to their success and status, a fortress of happiness that seemed impervious to the outside world's tumultuous tides. But on a seemingly ordinary summer evening, as the golden hues of dusk painted the sky with strokes of orange and pink. A darkness unfurled like a shadow from the depths of the lake, shattering the serene facade and revealing the chilling truth that would forever etch the name Watts into the annals of infamy. The evening air was thick with the scent of blooming jasmine and the distant laughter of children, yet within the confines of the Watts estate, a silent scream pierced the night, a chilling echo of a tragedy that would shatter the very foundation of the community. The town's heart raced as whispers of the unimaginable spread like wildfire. The Watts family, once the epitome of domestic bliss, now the focal point of a horror that defied belief. The once peaceful streets of Willowbrook were soon enveloped in a shroud of fear, as the lives of the Wattses were forever altered, their legacy stained by the indelible mark of the night when the shadows of the unknown crept into their home and left behind a trail of horror that would echo through the ages. In the shadowed corners of a sleepy coastal town nestled between rolling hills and the relentless waves, the Watts family had always been a beacon of tranquility, their modest home a sanctuary from the bustling world beyond. The old Victorian mansion, with its sprawling gardens and weathered facade, whispered tales of bygone eras, its windows casting a ghostly glow on the fog-draped streets. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a crimson hue across the sky, the serenity of the Watts household was shattered by a series of chilling events that would forever change the fabric of their lives. The night of the murders began with a gentle breeze that carried the scent of salt and brine, but it was soon overshadowed by the cacophony of sirens and the eerie silence that followed as the town held its breath. The once vibrant home now lay in shambles, the walls echoing with the somber tones of police officers and the anguished cries of loved ones, while the family's secrets began to unravel, revealing a tapestry of deceit and despair that had been carefully woven into the very essence of their existence. In the heart of a quaint coastal town, nestled between the whispering tides and the towering pines, the Watts family lived a life that seemed as ordinary as the rolling hills that surrounded their sprawling estate. The sun-drenched afternoons saw children playing hide and seek in the lush gardens, while the evenings were filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses as the family gathered around the grand oak table. But beneath the surface of this idyllic facade, a storm brewed, a tempest of darkness that would shatter the tranquility of the Watts household. It was a storm that began with whispers of strange occurrences, with shadows lurking in the corners of the home, and with the eerie silence that followed each nocturnal visitation. As the days turned into weeks, the whispers grew into murmurs, and the murmurs into a cacophony of terror, for the Watts family was about to face a horror that would forever change the course of their lives. One chilling night, as the moon hung low and the stars seemed to weep, a series of tragic events unfolded, each more harrowing than the last, and the once peaceful Watts family was thrust into the maelstrom of a mystery that would captivate the nation and leave an indelible mark on the very fabric of their once serene existence. In the hushed stillness of a small town nestled between rolling hills and a winding river, the Watts family had long been known for their unassuming demeanor and tight-knit bond. Each evening, as the golden hues of sunset painted the sky, Mrs. Watts would sit on the porch swing, her hands woven together, her eyes reflecting the serenity of her life. Her children, Sarah, aged 12, and Jack, 10, would race each other to the end of the driveway, their laughter echoing through the neighborhood. It was a picture of domestic bliss, a tranquil existence that belied the storm brewing just beneath the surface. Yet as the days turned into weeks, a chilling breeze swept through the town, heralding a darkness that would forever change the fabric of the Watts family and the sleepy hamlet they called home. The town's quiet nights were shattered one fateful evening when the door to the Watts' quaint farmhouse creaked open, and a shattering silence descended upon the community, leaving behind a trail of terror and a mystery that would become the stuff of local legend: the Watts family murders. In the heart of a small, sleepy town nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, the Watts family had always been known for their quiet, unassuming ways. The old, ivy-covered mansion at the end of Maple Street was a beacon of tradition and stability, its creaking floorboards echoing the laughter of children and the soft murmur of family conversations. But on a crisp autumn evening, as the golden leaves danced in the breeze, the town's serene facade was shattered by a series of chilling events that would forever alter the fate of the Watts family. The night had been as tranquil as any other, with the moon casting a silver glow over the sleepy town, when a sudden, piercing scream shattered the silence. The townsfolk, accustomed to the gentle hoots of owls and the distant howl of a lone wolf, were thrown into a panic. They rushed to the source of the terror, their footsteps muffled by the crunch of fallen leaves, and there, in the dim light of the street lamps, they found the Watts mansion, its once welcoming doors now ajar, and the air thick with a sense of dread. Inside, amidst the splintered wood and shattered glass, lay the lifeless bodies of the Watts family, their faces twisted in terror, their eyes wide with a final, haunting gaze. The townspeople, their hearts pounding in their chests, could hardly believe their eyes. The once proud and respected Watts family, a staple of the community for generations, had fallen victim to a senseless act of violence. The police arrived on the scene, their flashing lights casting an eerie glow over the scene of horror. They began their meticulous investigation, piecing together the shattered puzzle of the Watts family murders. But as they delved deeper, they uncovered a web of secrets and lies that stretched far beyond the confines of Maple Street. The townspeople, once united in their shock and grief, began to whisper among themselves, speculating about the identity of the killer and the motive behind the brutal attacks. The Watts mansion, once a place of warmth and laughter, now stood as a silent witness to the tragedy, its once vibrant rooms now filled with the somber silence of loss. The story of the Watts family murders would become a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder that even the most peaceful of places could be shrouded in darkness, and that the truth, when it finally emerged, could be as terrifying as the lies that had hidden it. In the eerie twilight of a small, otherwise serene coastal town, the Watts family had long been known for their idyllic existence, a beacon of happiness in a world often riddled with strife. Nestled in a picturesque cove, their sprawling, white-columned mansion seemed to rise like a fortress against the encroaching night. Yet, beneath the tranquil facade, dark currents of secrecy and sin swirled like the waves that lapped against the rocky shore. The townsfolk whispered about the enigmatic patriarch, Mr. Watts, a man who was both revered and feared, a mastermind of business deals that often left his competitors in the dust. His wife, Mrs. Watts, was a beauty with a heart of gold, a devoted mother whose gentle touch had the power to heal the deepest wounds. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a melancholic glow over the sea, the Watts mansion became a silent tomb, its once vibrant halls now filled with the chilling silence of death. That night, as the townsfolk prepared to turn in, a storm of a different kind began to brew within the walls of the Watts estate, a tempest that would shatter the town's peace and unravel the fabric of its secrets, revealing a web of lies, greed, and murder that no one could have ever imagined. In the shadowed crevices of a sleepy coastal town, the Watts family had always been known for their eccentricities, their sprawling estate a labyrinth of gardens and old oak trees whispering secrets to those who dared to listen. The sun-kissed facade of the grand mansion belied the dark undercurrents that had begun to ripple through the seemingly tranquil community. It was a Tuesday evening, the air thick with the scent of salt and the distant calls of seagulls, when the first chilling whispers of dread began to stir. As the golden hues of dusk gave way to the ominous grays of night, a series of ominous events unfolded, each more sinister than the last. The first to fall was Mrs. Watts, a woman of gentle demeanor and a penchant for gardening, her body discovered in the lush rose garden, a single crimson rose clutched in her lifeless hands. The townsfolk whispered of a vengeful spirit, but the Watts children, young and naive, remained oblivious to the terror that had seeped into their lives. Yet as the days passed, the haunting reality of their mother's death slowly began to dawn on them, and the eerie silence of the mansion grew more oppressive with each passing hour. It was then that the true horror began to unfold, as the Watts siblings, bound by blood and tragedy, discovered the chilling truth that would forever change their lives and shatter the peaceful facade of their once idyllic home. In the hushed quiet of the small town of Willow Creek, nestled between the whispering pines and the placid waters of the Silver Fork River, the Watts family had always been the picture of domestic bliss. The old brick house, a steadfast sentinel at the end of Main Street, was a haven for four siblings and their parents, bound by love and a shared history that had woven a tapestry of laughter and sorrow. The sun dipped low in the twilight sky, casting a golden glow over the sleepy town. But as the family gathered in the living room, the evening's warmth was tinged with an unsettling undercurrent. The father, a grizzled veteran with a gentle demeanor, sat at the head of the couch, his eyes reflecting the dimming light, while the mother, a former schoolteacher, readied the evening meal. Their children, a quartet of diverse characters, were scattered around the room, lost in their own worlds, books, dreams, and the anticipation of the night ahead. The air was thick with the scent of simmering potatoes and the distant sound of crickets, but beneath the surface, something dark was brewing. It was not until the youngest child, a curious 7-year-old with eyes like storm clouds, found a peculiar item in the attic, a dusty old journal with cryptic entries and a single, chilling illustration of a black raven perched atop a gnarled tree branch, that the Watts family's tranquil facade began to crack. As the shadows grew longer, the townsfolk of Willow Creek would come to realize that the tranquility of the night was about to shatter into 1,000 shards, revealing the grim truth hidden beneath the seemingly perfect lives of the Watts family. In the quaint, sun-dappled town of Maplewood, where laughter and the scent of blooming jasmine filled the air, the Watts family resided in a charming, ivy-covered mansion that seemed to whisper secrets to the wind. It was a family known for their warmth and hospitality, a beacon of happiness in the otherwise mundane lives of their neighbors. But as twilight approached, casting an eerie glow over the town, the mansion's serene facade began to crack under the weight of a darkness that would forever alter its fate. The evening had been just like any other. Mrs. Watts had hosted a dinner party, her laughter mingling with the clinking of silverware as she greeted her guests. Little did she know that the evening would turn into a nightmare from which no one would ever wake. The first sign of trouble came when the youngest Watts child, a curious 5-year-old with eyes like stormy skies, stumbled upon a door in the attic that was usually locked and forbidden. With the naive innocence of youth, he pushed it open and was met with the sight of his parents, Mrs. Watts and Mr. Watts, both lifeless, their bodies crumpled in an unrecognizable heap. The child, his eyes wide with horror, ran screaming down the stairs, the sound of his voice echoing through the mansion, only to find the dinner party guests frozen in place, their faces aghast. As the police arrived and the town was plunged into shock, whispers of a sinister presence haunted the halls of the Watts mansion, a presence that had been there all along, unseen but never forgotten. In the eerie silence of the small town of Willowbrook, nestled between the whispering pines and the shadowy embrace of the dark, ominous woods, the Watts family lived a life that was anything but ordinary. It was a life filled with secrets and whispers, with every neighbor knowing more about the Wattses than they ever dared to admit. The Watts home, a grand Victorian mansion that stood like a sentinel guarding the town's darkest secrets, was the backdrop for a tragedy that would echo through the ages. One crisp autumn evening, as the leaves began to turn and the world seemed to hold its breath, the Watts family was torn apart by a series of chilling murders that left the entire town in shock and horror. The police arrived, the media swarmed, and the whispers grew louder, each one more terrifying than the last, as the townspeople grappled with the unimaginable. What could have driven a seemingly perfect family to such a harrowing end? In the heart of a quaint coastal town, nestled between the whispering tides and the towering pines, the Watts family had always been a beacon of warmth and laughter. their home a sanctuary where secrets were whispered in hushed tones and dreams were woven into the fabric of everyday life. But on a stormy night that would forever etch itself into the annals of local lore, the tranquility of the Watts household was shattered by a cacophony of terror that would echo through the ages. As lightning crackled and thunder roared, the townsfolk were jolted from their beds by the chilling screams that emanated from the Watts residence, a sound so piercing and desperate that it seemed to tear the very soul from the heart of the community. The first responders arrived to find the scene of a horror beyond comprehension, the once peaceful abode now a canvas of blood and despair. The Watts family, once a symbol of unity and love, now reduced to a tragic tableau of loss and sorrow. The townsfolk, their hearts heavy with grief and their minds reeling with questions, would soon learn that the storm that night was but a prelude to a storm of secrets and lies that would shatter the very foundation of their world. A storm that would leave behind a legacy of pain and a mystery that would haunt them for generations to come. In the heart of the sprawling metropolis, where the skyline pierced the heavens and the hum of the city was a constant symphony, the Watts family resided in a stately mansion that whispered tales of wealth and prestige. The family was known for their philanthropy, their opulent lifestyle, and the unspoken aura of invincibility that seemed to shield them from the world's ills. But on a seemingly ordinary evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the sprawling estate, a chilling silence fell over the mansion, a silence that would shatter the illusion of invulnerability forever. As the moon climbed into the sky, casting a pale glow upon the grounds, a series of tragic events unfolded, each more sinister than the last, leaving the Watts family and the entire city reeling in shock and horror. The night was long, the secrets deep, and the truth about the Watts family murders would unravel in ways that none could have ever imagined, forever altering the course of history and the very fabric of the community. In the heart of a quaint English village nestled between rolling hills and ancient oak trees, the Watts family had long been known for their eccentricities and quiet prosperity. The stately manor house, with its high stone walls and sprawling gardens, was a testament to the family's wealth and influence, but it was a shroud of mystery that whispered secrets beneath its gabled roof. The townsfolk spoke in hushed tones about the eccentricities of the Watts patriarch, whose obsession with alchemy had turned his once bustling manor into a place of eerie quiet. His children, a brood of peculiar individuals, each harbored their own oddities and delusions, and it was said that the house itself was imbued with an otherworldly energy. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the village, the Watts family gathered in their grand parlor, a place of whispered conversations and hidden secrets, unaware that the night would bring a darkness that would forever change their lives and shatter the idyllic facade they had so meticulously maintained. In the heart of a sprawling metropolis, where the towering skyscrapers kissed the heavens and the streets hummed with the relentless pulse of a million lives, the Watts family lived in a modest yet cozy home nestled among the labyrinthine alleys. The family, consisting of parents Evelyn and Mark, their 3 children, Sarah, 10, Alex, 12, and Emily, 8, seemed to be an ordinary one, their days filled with the mundane rhythms of school, work, and family life. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the cityscape, a sinister undercurrent of dread began to ripple through the fabric of their existence. It was a quiet Saturday evening, the kind where the world seemed to pause for a moment when the unimaginable occurred. The doorbell rang, shattering the serene silence, and as Evelyn, her heart racing, opened the front door, she was met with a figure cloaked in darkness, their eyes glowing with an unnatural malevolence. In that instant, the Watts family's world was torn asunder, their lives irrevocably altered by the unspeakable horror that unfolded within the sanctity of their home. A night that would be etched into the annals of infamy as the Watts family murders. In the heart of the bustling city of Ashburton, where the towering skyscrapers kissed the clouds and the streets hummed with the symphony of life, The Watts family resided in a grandiose mansion that stood as a beacon of opulence and success. The family, a blend of sharp minds and warm hearts, was the epitome of the American dream, with parents Sarah and Michael Watts, both esteemed lawyers, and their 3 children. The precocious 17-year-old daughter, Lily, the charming 14-year-old son, Max, and the youngest, 10-year-old twins, Emma and Ethan, whose laughter echoed through the halls like a melody of joy. However, the serene facade of the Watts household was to shatter into 1,000 pieces on the fateful night of June 16, 1997, when the unimaginable horror of the Watts family murders began to unfold, casting a dark shadow over the lives of everyone in the close-knit community. In the heart of the sun-drenched coastal town of Palmetto Shores, where the scent of salt-kissed air and the rhythmic sound of waves crashing against the shore painted a picture of idyllic tranquility, the Watts family, once the picture of American dreams and success, lived a life shrouded in whispers and secrets. It was a weekend of unseasonable warmth when the sun hung low on the horizon, casting an amber glow over the family's sprawling estate, a mansion that loomed like a fortress against the backdrop of emerald lawns and sprawling gardens. The Wattses, a family of 7, including Patriarch Thomas, Matriarch Eliza, their 3 adult children, and 3 young grandchildren, gathered in the grand foyer for a family dinner, the scent of rich, hearty food mingling with the faint hint of an exotic spice. As they settled into their seats, the air was thick with laughter and the clinking of fine china, the warmth of family and the comforting hum of domesticity filling the room. Little did they know, this dinner would be their last, as the tranquility of the Watts household would soon be shattered by a tragedy that would become the stuff of local legend and the subject of endless speculation and inquiry. For as the night wore on, whispers of a shadowy figure lurking in the dark corners of the mansion began to stir the slumbering town, and it wasn't long before the Watts family would find themselves ensnared in a chilling mystery that would leave the entire community reeling, and the lives of all touched by it irrevocably changed. In the sleepy town of Willow Creek, where the whispering willows lined the winding riverside streets, the Watts family had been a beacon of normalcy, their home a sanctuary of laughter and warmth. But on a chilling evening when the moon hung low and the wind howled through the trees, the tranquil facade was shattered by a cacophony of screams that echoed through the night. The town's peace was shattered as police officers raced to the scene, their sirens piercing the darkness, only to find the Watts home in shambles, the once peaceful household now a scene of unimaginable horror. Inside, the bodies of the Watts family lay in a grotesque tableau, each member of the family, from the youngest child to the matriarch, a victim of a brutal and senseless crime. The police investigation revealed that the killer had left behind no clues, no trace of identity, leaving the town in a state of shock and despair. As the community struggled to come to terms with the tragedy, whispers of conspiracy and malevolence swirled through the air, casting a long, dark shadow over the lives of those left behind. In the hushed, fog-draped town of Willow Creek, where the whispering trees whispered tales of old, the Watts family was known for their quaint, close-knit nature. They lived in a sprawling Victorian mansion at the end of a long, winding drive, a place that seemed to hover just beyond the veil of reality. The children, with their piercing blue eyes and freckled cheeks, roamed freely in the expansive gardens, while the parents, with their gentle dispositions and warm smiles, welcomed anyone into their warm embrace. But on the eve of the full moon, when the night sky blushed with the eerie glow of a crimson lunar orb, something dark and sinister crept into the heart of the Watts household. The creak of floorboards echoed through the house as a shadowy figure slinked through the dim hallways, their presence felt rather than seen. And then, as the moon reached its zenith, the tranquility of Willow Creek was shattered by a series of chilling screams that pierced the night like a scream of fury from the depths of hell itself. The town awoke to a nightmare, one that would etch the name Watts into the annals of infamy forever, and the lives of those once serene souls would be forever altered by the haunting whispers of the murdered Watts family. In the sleepy town of Willow Creek, where the whispering pines met the rolling hills and the sun dipped below the horizon like a golden coin, the Watts family lived a life that seemed to be woven from the very fabric of American dreams. The Wattses, a family of 5, had everything one could hope for: a sprawling estate, a loving matriarch, a doting patriarch, 3 bright-eyed children, and a dog that barked with joy at the sight of a returning family member. But as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, a dark shadow began to loom over the idyllic setting, casting long, ominous shadows on the once picture-perfect facade. It started with whispers, hushed conversations in the dimly lit corners of the local diner, where townsfolk would exchange glances and nod gravely, their eyes reflecting the unease that had settled like a shroud over the community. Then came the rumors, whispered through the grapevine and echoed in the hollows of the night, that something sinister was afoot in the Watts household. It was said that the patriarch, a man of stern resolve and a heart as black as the night, had become increasingly erratic, his mood swinging wildly from cold, calculating detachment to a fiery rage that could ignite the very earth beneath his feet. The children, once the pride of the town, had started to withdraw, their laughter replaced by the hollow echo of their own footsteps, their eyes filled with a fear that seemed to have no place in the innocence of youth. The dog, once a loyal sentinel, had begun to pace the yard, growling in a language that only the night could understand. And then, on a stormy night when the wind howled like a banshee and the rain lashed against the windows like 1,000 angry spirits, the true horror was revealed, shattering the fragile illusion of the Watts family's serene existence and leaving the town of Willow Creek forever scarred by the unimaginable tragedy that had unfolded within the walls of their once hallowed home. In the hushed, sun-drenched town of Willow Creek, where the whispering leaves of ancient oaks whispered tales of yore, the Watts family had long been a beacon of tranquility, their sprawling estate a testament to their prosperity and good fortune. But as the golden hues of autumn began to fade, a chilling silence descended upon the once idyllic community, for the Watts mansion, a stately abode nestled among rolling hills and dense woods, became the focal point of a nightmarish tragedy. It was a Saturday evening, a time when families gathered, laughter filled the air, and the world seemed a place of endless possibility. Yet as the clock struck midnight, the tranquility of Willow Creek was shattered by a series of screams that echoed through the night, a cacophony of terror that would leave an indelible mark on the hearts of all who heard it. The police arrived to find the Watts mansion in disarray, the once serene home now a scene of horror, with bodies strewn about, each one bearing the unmistakable signs of a brutal, senseless attack. The townsfolk, who had once known the Watts family as pillars of the community, now gawked in shock and disbelief, their eyes wide with the realization that the monster they had always feared was real, and it had struck at the very heart of their beloved town. The Watts family murders, a name that would become synonymous with horror, had begun, and the town of Willow Creek would never be the same. In the heart of a small, otherwise unremarkable town, nestled among rolling hills and whispering woods, the Watts family lived their lives in the comforting shadow of familiarity. Each morning, as the golden sun crept over the horizon, the family of 5, parents Evelyn and Thomas, and their 3 children, Lily, Jack, and Mia, would embark on their daily routines, the sound of laughter and the clink of dishes mingling with the gentle rustle of the morning breeze. Their quaint, colonial home stood as a testament to their simple joys, a sanctuary from the tumultuous world outside. But as the days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, an insidious shadow began to cast its ominous presence over the once idyllic Watts family. The first whispers of dread crept into the town square, carried on the wind like a specter of the unknown. The once vibrant community grew somber, their eyes darting with a mixture of fear and curiosity as they speculated about the mysterious circumstances surrounding the sudden disappearances of the Watts family. The police arrived, their presence as imposing as it was unwelcome, and they set about piecing together the shattered remnants of the Watts' lives. But what they uncovered was not just a case of missing persons. It was a chilling narrative of betrayal, manipulation, and a relentless killer who seemed to be one of their own. The townsfolk, once united in their innocence, were now divided, some clutching onto the comforting illusion of safety, while others were haunted by the chilling possibility that the monster they feared might be lurking in their midst. As the story of the Watts family murders unfolded, it became clear that this was no ordinary tragedy. It was a tale of darkness, deception, and the chilling realization that in the quiet corners of life, the most terrifying threats often lurk just beneath the surface. In the shadowy corners of a sprawling metropolis, where the neon lights danced like restless spirits, the Watts family thrived in a house that whispered tales of prosperity and secrets untold. The sun would rise each morning to reveal the sprawling estate, its grandiose mansion standing tall among the sprawling suburban sprawl, a testament to the family's wealth and influence. However, beneath the gilded facade, a darkness simmered, a festering corruption that would soon explode into a nightmare of horror and betrayal. It was a time when whispers of the Watts family's sinister dealings reached the ears of the city's denizens, yet few dared to challenge the enigmatic patriarch, Mr. Charles Watts, a man who seemed to command the very forces of nature. The family, led by the charismatic matriarch, Mrs. Evelyn Watts, and their 4 children, each with their own unique quirks and desires, appeared to live in a world of their own making, a bubble of opulence and indulgence. Yet, as fate would have it, the bubble was about to burst, and the family's carefully crafted illusion of perfection would shatter into a million pieces, revealing the grim reality that had been lurking in the shadows all along. In the heart of a picturesque coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered tales of yesteryears, the Watts family had always been the embodiment of serene domesticity, their home a sanctuary from the tumultuous world beyond its walls. The old, weathered house stood proudly on a cliff overlooking the churning sea, its windows aglow with the warm light of family life. But on a night when the stars seemed to weep their brightest, the tranquility was shattered by a cacophony of screams that would echo through the ages, a chilling prelude to a horror that would leave the town and its residents forever scarred. As the first rays of dawn crept over the horizon, the once serene Watts household had become the macabre focal point of a mystery that defied belief, a tragedy that would unravel the very fabric of its community, and in its wake, spawn a web of deceit, despair, and the relentless pursuit of truth. In the shadowy crevices of a quaint coastal town nestled between the whispering tides and the gnarled roots of ancient oaks, the Watts family resided in a sprawling mansion that seemed to breathe tales of old. The matriarch, Elspeth Watts, was a woman of formidable presence, her eyes the color of storm-tossed seas, and her laugh a melodious echo that often seemed to carry the secrets of the ocean with it. Her children, a brood of 6, were as varied as the leaves of autumn, each with a personality as unique as the fingerprints that marked their souls. Yet, it was on the eve of the autumn equinox, when the sun kissed the horizon in a fiery embrace, that the town's serene facade shattered, and the Watts family's secrets spilled out into the world, a harrowing tale of betrayal, greed, and the relentless march of fate. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between the jagged cliffs and the relentless pounding of the ocean waves, the Watts family had long been a beacon of community stability, their sprawling estate a testament to their wealth and influence. The old, ivy-clad mansion stood as a silent sentinel, its windows aglow with the soft glow of evening lamps, casting long shadows that danced across the dew-kissed lawns. But beneath the surface of this picturesque facade, a darkness was brewing, one that would shatter the tranquility of the Watts family and send shockwaves through the entire town. The night of the murders was as serene as any other, the stars twinkling above as the family gathered for dinner, unaware that their lives were about to spiral into a vortex of terror and intrigue. As the head of the family, Thomas Watts, A grizzled man with piercing blue eyes and a commanding presence welcomed his extended family into the opulent dining room. He could not have predicted that the night would be his last. The clinking of silverware against porcelain, the laughter of children, and the comforting aroma of a sumptuous feast filled the room, a stark contrast to the impending horror that would soon unfold. In the shadowed heart of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered tales of yore and the moonlight danced upon the waves, the Watts family lived in a house that seemed to breathe tales of its own. It was a modest home, nestled among towering oaks and a garden that whispered secrets with every rustle of its leaves, yet it was as solid and unyielding as the rock upon which the town was built. Inside, the Wattses lived a life that mirrored the serene exterior, a life of quiet meals shared, laughter echoing through the halls, and the warmth of family love that bound them all. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an amber glow upon the sea, a storm was brewing that would shatter the illusion of tranquility. The night of the murders was a black canvas, painted with the stark reality of horror, as the town of Willow's End would never be the same. In the quaint, sun-dappled town of Maplewood, nestled beneath the sprawling canopy of ancient oaks, the Watts family was known for their quiet, unassuming demeanor and the warm, inviting glow of their candle-lit evenings. As the golden sun dipped below the horizon, casting a tranquil hue over the tranquil village, the Watts house was a beacon of domestic harmony. But beneath the tranquil facade, a shadow lay dormant, biding its time, an insidious entity poised to shatter the delicate equilibrium of this seemingly perfect family. Little did the townsfolk realize that the tranquility they had taken for granted was a fragile illusion, a veil covering the dark secrets lurking in the heart of the Watts household. The days were filled with laughter and the soft cooing of crickets, yet as the night enveloped the sleepy village, an air of sinister suspense would creep over the Watts home, as if a malevolent force had taken residence within its walls. And when the fateful night arrived, when the stars above began to twinkle with a sinister glint, the Watts family would be forever changed, their lives irrevocably altered by the chilling revelation of a horror so deep and dark. It would forever haunt the souls of Maplewood's residents. In the shadowed crevices of a sleepy coastal town, the Watts family had always been a beacon of tranquility, their home a sanctuary of laughter and warmth. The old, weathered house, perched atop a cliff overlooking the churning sea, seemed to whisper tales of yesteryears, its walls adorned with faded photographs and cherished memories. But on a fateful night, as the moon hung low and the waves crashed against the shore with a sinister rhythm, the Watts family's serene existence was shattered. A cold breeze swept through the house, carrying with it the scent of salt and the ominous whispers of fate. As the clock struck midnight, the town slumbered, unaware of the horror that would soon consume their lives. In the heart of the Watts household, a darkness began to unfurl, a darkness that would etch its name into the annals of infamy and leave an indelible scar upon the town's once peaceful facade. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty sea breeze whispered secrets to the ancient oaks, the Watts family lived in a grand mansion that seemed to breathe with the rhythm of the waves. The sun set in fiery hues, casting a golden glow over the sprawling gardens where roses bloomed like emeralds under the twilight sky. Inside, the family gathered around the grand piano, their laughter echoing through the halls as they shared stories of their idyllic life. But beneath the surface, dark currents swirled, and as the night deepened, a storm of tragedy brewed. It was a night that would shatter the tranquility of the Watts world, a night when the mansion's doors would creak open to reveal a harrowing truth that would leave the town in shock and the nation in mourning. The whispers of the sea had spoken, and the Watts family's secret would be forever etched into the annals of infamy. In the hushed hamlet of Willowbrook, nestled between the whispering willows and the shadowed oaks, the Watts family had been a beacon of prosperity and peace for generations. Their sprawling estate, a sprawling testament to their wealth, was a place of laughter and love, where the golden sun would cast a warm glow over the manicured gardens and the laughter of children would echo through the air. The Wattses were the heart of the community, their generosity known far and wide, their reputation unblemished. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon one chilling autumn evening, the tranquility of Willowbrook was shattered by a cacophony of screams that would echo through the ages, heralding the dark truth that the Watts family had become entangled in a web of terror and murder. The townsfolk, accustomed to the gentle hum of life in this picturesque village, found themselves grappling with the horror of a crime so heinous it defied imagination, a crime that would forever change the course of their lives and cast a long, sinister shadow over the once idyllic hamlet. In the shadowed hollows of a once thriving industrial town, the Watts family had been the bedrock of the community, their sprawling estate a beacon of prosperity and happiness. The old man, a grizzled ex-miner turned successful entrepreneur, had built his fortune on the backs of the very mines that had nearly destroyed his health. His wife, a gentle soul with a heart as vast as the night sky, had nurtured their brood of 5 with a love that seemed to defy the harsh realities of their world. The children, each with their own dreams and ambitions, had grown up in a home where laughter echoed through the halls and the scent of home-cooked meals lingered in the air. But as the sun dipped below the horizon on the night of the murders, the idyllic facade crumbled, and the town was left reeling from the chilling discovery that the Watts family had become the latest victims of a brutal killer who seemed to have taken a peculiar interest in their lives. The police arrived to find the scene of horror, the bodies of the Wattses sprawled across their plush living room, each one a silent witness to the unimaginable terror that had unfolded. The children found in their bedrooms had been strangled to death, their eyes wide with shock and fear, as if they had seen their own demise before it happened. The old man, lying in a pool of his own blood, had been shot point-blank, his expression one of disbelief and pain. The wife, found in the kitchen, had been stabbed repeatedly, her body contorted in a final, desperate plea for help. The killer, a shadowy figure who had left no trace, had vanished into the night, leaving behind a trail of chaos and despair. The town was in shock, the once bustling streets now silent and eerie, as the Watts family's murders became the subject of whispered speculation and endless questions. Who could have done such a thing? And why the Watts family of all people? As the investigation unfolded, the town would learn that the truth was far more twisted and terrifying than anyone could have imagined, and that the killer's motive was as dark and sinister as the night from which he emerged. In the shadowed heart of a small coastal town nestled between towering cliffs and the relentless roar of the Pacific Ocean, the Watts family lived a life of serene simplicity, their days a tapestry woven from the threads of love, laughter, and the quiet contentment of a bygone era. The family's sprawling estate, a sprawling emerald expanse that stretched from the cliffs to the sea, was a sanctuary, a place where the sun kissed the windows and the sea breeze whispered secrets to the old oak trees that stood as silent sentinels. Inside, the Watts home was a warm embrace, filled with the laughter of children and the gentle hum of family life. The children, 3 bright-eyed offspring of the matriarch and patriarch, were the very essence of innocence, their laughter echoing through the halls like a symphony of joy. The parents, a couple of quiet dignity and unspoken strength, were the pillars of their family, their presence a beacon of stability and unwavering love. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced across the floorboards, a storm brewed, one that would shatter the tranquility of the Watts' existence and unravel the fabric of their lives forever. For in the darkness that followed, amidst the silence and the solemnity, a tragedy of chilling proportions would unfold, a horror that would forever etch the name of the Watts family into the annals of infamy and the collective memory of the town. A tale of loss, of heartbreak, and of the unfathomable depths of human darkness that would leave the entire community reeling in shock and disbelief. In the heart of a sun-drenched coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered secrets to the ancient oaks, the Watts family lived in a sprawling mansion that seemed to breathe with the rhythm of the sea. It was a home of laughter and love, where the laughter of children echoed through the halls and the warmth of family gatherings filled every corner. But beneath the gilded facade, a storm brewed, an undercurrent of darkness that would shatter the tranquility of the Watts' idyllic life. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the mansion, the whispers of the wind turned into chilling cries, and the laughter turned to silence. For on this fateful night, the Watts family would become entangled in a web of terror and tragedy that would forever change the course of their lives. The town of Willow Creek, once a place of serene beauty, would now be forever marred by the chilling events that unfolded within the hallowed walls of the Watts mansion. A tale of murder, mystery, and the chilling revelation that not even the safest havens are immune to the shadows that lurk just beyond the veil of normalcy. In the shadowed corners of a sleepy coastal town, nestled between the crashing waves and the dense, whispering woods, the Watts family had always been the epitome of domestic tranquility. Their sprawling Victorian mansion, with its grand white columns and towering oaks, stood as a beacon of prosperity in the otherwise modest neighborhood. But on a stormy night, when the sky rumbled with thunder and the wind howled like a banshee, the serene facade of the Watts household was shattered by a terror that would echo through the ages. The townsfolk awoke to the chilling discovery of the family's brutal murders, each member found in a different room, their faces contorted in silent screams, the air thick with the stench of death. The police were baffled, the community shattered, and the Watts mansion, once a symbol of domestic bliss, now stood as a haunting monument to a crime that would become the stuff of nightmares. The story of the Watts family murders began with a storm that night, a storm that would leave no one untouched, no soul unscarred, and a legacy of horror that would be etched into the very soul of the town for generations to come. In the sleepy town of Willowbrook, where the golden sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the cobblestone streets, the Watts family lived a life that seemed ordinary, almost mundane. The sun-drenched days of summer were filled with laughter and the scent of blooming jasmine, and the cool, starlit nights were a symphony of crickets and the distant hum of a nearby river. But beneath the surface of this tranquil facade, a storm brewed, a tempest of secrets and deceit that would shatter the very fabric of their lives. As the sun set on the final day of June, the idyllic scene of the Watts family enjoying a picnic in the park was shattered by the chilling sound of gunshots, a sound that would echo through the town for years to come, leaving a trail of devastation and unanswered questions. The once vibrant faces of the Watts family now etched with sorrow and confusion, as they grappled with the horror of the unimaginable. The town of Willowbrook, a place that prided itself on its close-knit community and its serene beauty, was now forever altered, its innocence forever tarnished by the brutal and senseless murders of the Watts family. The night of the murders would become a grim legend, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones as the townspeople tried to make sense of the tragedy that had befallen their neighbors. And as the investigation unfolded, it would reveal a dark underbelly of secrets and lies, a web of intrigue that would stretch far beyond the confines of Willowbrook, dragging the entire community into a maelstrom of fear and suspicion. In the eerie silence of a small, sun-dappled town nestled against the jagged silhouette of the Blue Ridge Mountains, the Watts family had always been known for their unassuming charm and the warmth that emanated from their cozy, ivy-covered cottage. Yet, as the golden hues of autumn began to wane and the chill of winter crept into the air, a shiver of dread began to ripple through the community when the Watts family was found in their home, each member slumped in a silent tableau of horror, their eyes wide with shock, their faces contorted in a final, desperate gasp. The police arrived to find the scene both grotesque and surreal, the air thick with the scent of decay, and the overwhelming sense that something sinister had unfurled in the quiet sanctuary of the Watts abode. The townsfolk, who had once known the Watts family as the embodiment of wholesome American life, were now grappling with a chilling reality that threatened to shatter the very fabric of their serene existence. As the investigators delved deeper into the mystery, they discovered a web of secrets and lies that seemed to intertwine with the very essence of the Watts' seemingly perfect life. And the chilling truth they uncovered would forever change the course of history in this once peaceful hamlet. In the shadowed alleys of the decrepit town of Maplewood, where the fog clung to the cobbles like a ghostly shroud, the Watts family lived in a sprawling, ivy-clad mansion that whispered tales of wealth and secrets. It was a house of many stories, each room echoing with the echoes of laughter and sorrow, and at its heart, there was a secret that would shatter the town's fragile peace. On a moonless night, when the stars were obscured by the cloak of night, a chilling silence fell over Maplewood as the townsfolk slumbered unaware. For within the walls of the Watts mansion, a series of events would unfold that would forever change the course of their lives. The master of the house, a man known only as Mr. Watts, had always been a man of mystery, his reclusive nature fueling the whispers of the townsfolk. His family, a brood of children and their mother, were enigmas in their own right, each one a puzzle waiting to be solved. But on that fateful night, the secrets of the Watts household would be revealed, and the town would be forever altered by the tragic and mysterious deaths that would shatter the lives of everyone connected to the enigmatic family. In the shrouded, rain-soaked town of Eldridge, the Watts family had always been an enigma, their lives as secluded and mysterious as the fog that clung to the ancient, gnarled trees that lined their narrow, winding lane. The family, once a beacon of wealth and respectability, had fallen into obscurity, their sprawling, ivy-clad mansion now a shadow of its former glory. It was said that the mansion was haunted, that the spirits of the Watts' long-lost ancestors roamed the halls, their anguished whispers echoing through the dimly lit rooms. But to the townsfolk, the most chilling aspect of the Watts family was the sudden, tragic disappearance of its members, a mystery that had been shrouded in silence for over a decade. The last time anyone saw the Watts family, they were gathered around the grand piano in the music room, their laughter and light-hearted conversation mingling with the sweet, haunting melody of an old, forgotten tune. But by dawn, the mansion was eerily silent, the piano keys still quivering with the remnants of their last, joyous moments. The police had investigated, the media had sensationalized, but the truth remained buried beneath layers of secrecy and speculation. Until now, that is, for a series of chilling letters had begun to surface, letters that hinted at a dark, twisted tale, a tale that would shatter the town's long-held beliefs and drag the Watts family's name into infamy. As the rain continued to pour down, soaking the cobblestone streets and washing away the secrets of Eldridge, the townsfolk began to whisper, and the Watts family's dark legacy was about to be unearthed, revealing a horror that no one could have ever imagined. In the hushed, mist-shrouded town of Eldridge, nestled between the whispering oaks and the silent rivers, the Watts family had been the embodiment of tranquility and warmth, their home a beacon of solace in the otherwise mundane lives of its residents. The Wattses were a close-knit clan, their laughter echoing through the cobblestone streets, and their stories passed down through generations like cherished heirlooms. But as the sun dipped below the horizon one crisp autumn evening, the idyllic facade of the Watts household was shattered by a sound that would echo through the town for years to come, a sound so chilling, it sent shivers down the spines of the most resolute souls. The once peaceful home had become a scene of horror, a macabre tableau that would forever alter the course of history. The townsfolk, accustomed to the gentle hum of life in Eldridge, found themselves grappling with the unimaginable, their world turned upside down by the sudden, violent deaths of the Watts family. The police arrived on the scene, their uniforms a stark contrast to the crimson stains that marred the pristine white walls, and the questions that began to swirl in the minds of everyone were as numerous as the stars in the night sky. What had led to this tragic end? Who was responsible for the heinous crime? And how could such a serene family have become entangled in a web of darkness and deceit? The story of the Watts family murders was one that would consume the hearts and minds of Eldridge for generations. A tale of love and loss, of innocence and evil, that would be whispered in hushed tones beneath the ancient trees. A chilling reminder of the fragility of life and the shadow that looms over even the most peaceful of homes. In the heart of the sun-drenched expanse of the Mojave Desert, where the relentless heat baked the earth into a crimson mosaic, the Watts family lived in a modest abode, a quaint little home nestled among the sprawling dunes. The Wattses, a close-knit family of 5, had always been a beacon of warmth and normalcy in the otherwise desolate landscape, their laughter echoing like a melody against the backdrop of the desert silence. But on that fateful night, when the moon hung low and the stars shone with an eerie glow, the tranquility of their desert haven was shattered by a cacophony of horror that would echo through the ages. The gentle hum of the wind, a familiar companion to the Wattses, was suddenly replaced by the sound of frenzied sirens, the shrill cries of police officers racing through the night, their flashlights cutting through the darkness like jagged blades. In the aftermath of the calamity, the once serene desert became a stage for a chilling mystery, one that would unravel the secrets hidden within the walls of the Watts family's home, revealing a tale of betrayal, greed, and a darkness that had been lurking in plain sight for far too long. In the heart of a small, picturesque town nestled between rolling hills and a tranquil river, the Watts family had long been known for their close-knit bond and unassuming lifestyle. The sun-drenched streets were lined with blooming flowers, and the aroma of freshly baked bread wafted through the air, painting a serene picture of a community that thrived on harmony and mutual respect. But on a seemingly ordinary autumn evening, as the golden hues of sunset painted the sky in fiery hues, a darkness descended upon the Watts household that would shatter the tranquility of the town forever. The family, consisting of the beloved matriarch, Eliza Watts, her husband Thomas, and their 3 children, Sarah, aged 10, Emily, 7, and little Benjamin, who was just 5, had gathered around the fireplace, sharing stories and laughter, unaware that their lives were about to spiral into a nightmarish abyss. As the night deepened, a series of chilling whispers began to echo through the house, each one more sinister than the last, until a sudden, piercing scream shattered the silence, sending shivers down the spines of the Watts family and the entire town into a state of terror. Little did they know, the chilling whispers were the ominous prelude to a tragedy that would leave an indelible mark on the hearts of everyone who knew the Watts family, forever altering the fabric of their once peaceful existence. In the shadowy heart of a small coastal town where the ocean whispered secrets to the wind, the Watts family resided in a sprawling mansion that seemed to breathe with the ancient trees surrounding it. The mansion, a grand testament to wealth and power, was the epitome of opulence, with marble floors and walls adorned with priceless art that told tales of distant lands and forgotten empires. Yet beneath the polished surface, a dark undercurrent thrummed through the veins of the Watts family, a family bound by blood and by the chilling events that had marked their legacy for generations. It was on a moonless night, when the stars above seemed to weep their own sorrow, that the mansion's iron gates clanged shut, sealing in a tragedy that would echo through the annals of time. As the first rays of dawn filtered through the dense fog, a shiver of dread ran through the town, for the Watts family had become synonymous with horror, their name a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones by the townsfolk. Little did they know, the night of the murders was just the beginning of a harrowing saga that would unravel the very fabric of their lives, revealing secrets and betrayals that would shake the very foundations of their once sterling reputation. In the quaint, sun-dappled town of Maplewood, where laughter mingled with the scent of blooming azaleas and the gentle hum of the old oak trees, the Watts family lived a life of unassuming contentment. It was a family portrait painted in pastel hues, with John Watts, the stern but loving patriarch, presiding over a hearth that blazed with warmth. His wife, Margaret, with her piercing blue eyes and perpetual smile, was the beating heart of the family, her laughter a melody that echoed through the corridors of their quaint Victorian home. Their children, Sarah, a bright-eyed teen with a penchant for storytelling, and young Jack, a mischievous boy with a knack for getting into trouble, were the joyous chorus, their laughter a melody that filled the home with life. The Wattses were an ordinary family, but in the quiet, unassuming corner of their lives, a storm was brewing, a tempest of darkness that would shatter the peace of Maplewood forever. One fateful night, as the moon hung low and the stars whispered secrets to the night, the Watts family was shattered by a silence so profound it echoed through the very walls of their beloved home, and the town of Maplewood would never be the same. In the heart of a sun-drenched coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered tales of yesteryears, the Watts family lived in a sprawling Victorian mansion that seemed to loom over the neighborhood like a grand, imposing sentinel. The mansion, with its towering spires and grandiose iron gates, was a marvel of architecture, but it harbored a darkness that no one dared to speak of. The Watts family, a seemingly idyllic unit of doctors and teachers, had always been the embodiment of suburban perfection, their lives a tapestry woven from the threads of community respect and quiet contentment. Yet, as the golden leaves of autumn began to turn to a crimson inferno, whispers of unease crept through the town like a ghostly specter, and the once serene facade of the Watts residence began to crack, revealing the chilling truth beneath. It was on a crisp October evening, as the last rays of the setting sun painted the sky in hues of fire and blood, that the first disturbing whispers reached the ears of the townsfolk, and the Watts family's secrets, long hidden in the shadows, were about to be laid bare in the most terrifying of fashions. In the hushed and sun-drenched streets of the once vibrant Watts neighborhood, the air hung heavy with the scent of blooming jasmine and the distant laughter of children, yet beneath the tranquil facade, a darkness brewed like a storm waiting to unleash. The Watts family had always been the backbone of this community, their laughter echoing through the halls of their sprawling Victorian mansion like a melody of prosperity and warmth. But as twilight descended, and the world outside settled into the quiet embrace of evening, the family's idyllic life was about to shatter into a million pieces when a series of brutal and senseless murders shook the very core of this once peaceful household. The night that changed everything began with a knock at the door, a knock that heralded the arrival of a shadowy figure cloaked in malice and draped in the silence of a killer, a figure whose intentions were as dark and inscrutable as the secrets hidden within the walls of the Watts mansion, secrets that would soon be exposed to the chilling light of truth and justice. In the shadowed hollows of the sprawling Watts neighborhood, where the sun barely dared to penetrate the smoggy veil, the Watts family lived a life of quiet desperation, their days a tapestry woven from the threads of mundane existence. The family, a motley crew of 7, had settled into the modest bungalow that had been their sanctuary for years, a place where the laughter of children and the clinking of glasses at dinner formed the soothing backdrop to their lives. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the streets, the tranquility of Watts was shattered by a series of chilling events that would leave the entire community in a state of shock and horror. It was a night like any other, the moon hanging like a silver coin in the velvet sky, when the silence was suddenly rent asunder by the sound of shattering glass and the piercing scream of a child. The Watts family, bound by blood and the unspoken promise of a life together, would soon find themselves ensnared in a web of tragedy and mystery that would unravel the very fabric of their existence, leaving behind a trail of tears and unanswered questions. In the shadowed heart of a small, sleepy town nestled against the rolling hills of the Midwest, the Watts family had always been the picture of idyllic tranquility. Their sprawling estate, a testament to their wealth and influence, was a beacon of prosperity in the otherwise modest community. The Wattses were pillars of society, their names synonymous with power and prestige. Yet on the crisp autumn evening when the leaves began to turn a fiery crimson, The tranquility was shattered by a sound that would echo through the years, a sound that heralded the beginning of a dark chapter in the town's history. The moon hung low and full, casting a ghostly glow over the estate's sprawling grounds as the family gathered for their annual harvest festival, a tradition that had been passed down through generations. Laughter and the clinking of glasses filled the air, a symphony of joy and celebration. But as the night wore on, whispers of a sinister presence began to weave their way through the festivities, a specter that none could see but all felt, a presence that would soon transform the Watts family into the stuff of nightmares. In the heart of a quaint, picturesque town nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, the Watts family lived in a sprawling, ivy-covered mansion that seemed to breathe with the ancient history of the land. The air was thick with the scent of blooming jasmine and the distant hum of a lazy brook that meandered through their expansive garden. The Wattses were a family of repute, known for their generous hearts and their deep roots in the community. But on a dark and stormy night, when the winds howled like the ghosts of the past and the lightning danced like a macabre ballet across the sky, the tranquility of their home was shattered by a series of events that would become the stuff of nightmares. As the storm raged on, the mansion's creaking windows and groaning timbers seemed to echo the terror that was about to unfold, and the lives of the Watts family were irrevocably changed in a way that no one could have ever imagined. In the shadowy corners of a sprawling metropolis, where the skyline was etched with the relentless glow of neon lights and the hum of an unceasing urban pulse, the Watts family had always been known for their prosperity and the ironclad security that shrouded their secluded mansion. But as the golden hour gave way to the eerie calm of dusk, a chilling silence fell over the affluent neighborhood, a silence that was soon shattered by the sound of a single gunshot, its echo bouncing off the towering skyscrapers. It was in this moment, as the sun dipped below the horizon, that the tranquility of the Watts estate was shattered by a horror that would echo through the ages, a horror that would unravel the fabric of a family's existence and leave a scar on the community that would never fade. The once picture-perfect facade of the Watts mansion now stood as a haunting reminder of the night when darkness descended upon the enigmatic family, a darkness that would bring forth a tale of greed, betrayal, and a string of meticulously planned executions that would send shockwaves through the city and into the hearts of every soul that dared to whisper the name Watts. In the shadowed corners of the dilapidated Watts neighborhood, where the streets whispered tales of forgotten prosperity and the air hung heavy with the scent of jasmine and decay, the Watts family had long been a subject of whispered speculation and whispered fear. The Watts, a family of reclusive wealth, had vanished one stormy night, their opulent mansion shrouded in mystery and silence. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and still, no trace of the Watts was found, leaving the townsfolk to conjecture about the fates of the once prosperous clan. The mansion, once a beacon of elegance and opulence, now stood abandoned, its windows like hollowed eyes staring down upon the desolate streets. As the whispers grew louder and the fear spread like wildfire, a young journalist named Eliza Thompson decided to uncover the truth behind the Watts family murders. Armed with only her determination and a tattered old map, she ventured into the heart of the mystery, her heart pounding against the relentless drum of the storm that had once claimed the lives of the Watts. And as she delved deeper into the twisted web of secrets and lies, she began to realize that the truth was far more sinister and terrifying than any ghost story could ever be. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between towering cliffs and the relentless roar of the ocean waves, the Watts family had always been a beacon of warmth and normalcy. The sun-drenched streets were alive with laughter from children playing, and the scent of salt and sea air mingled with the aroma of freshly baked bread from the local bakery. The Wattses, with their sprawling gingerbread mansion at the crest of the hill, were the epitome of domestic bliss, their lives a tapestry woven with the threads of love, laughter, and the quiet contentment of a family well loved by all. But as the golden hues of sunset began to fade, casting a ghostly glow over the tranquil town, A shroud of darkness descended upon the Watts family, unraveling the delicate fabric of their idyllic existence. One fateful night, as the stars emerged to claim their place in the sky, a series of chilling events unfolded, shattering the town's serene facade and leaving behind a trail of horror that would forever etch itself into the annals of local legend. The townsfolk would come to refer to it simply as the Watts family murders, a name that would echo through the halls of history, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the terrifying potential for evil to lurk in the shadows of even the most unsuspecting homes. In the hushed, sun-drenched streets of the quaint coastal town of Port Meridian, where the salty sea breeze mingled with the scent of blooming jasmine, the Watts family lived in a sprawling, ivy-clad mansion that seemed to breathe the very essence of old-world charm. The Wattses, a family of 5, were known for their generous hearts and warm smiles, their laughter echoing through the halls like a symphony of joy. But on a stormy night, when the wind howled and the rain beat a relentless drum, their idyllic existence was shattered into 1,000 pieces as the town awoke to the chilling news of the Watts family murders. The bodies of Mr. and Mrs. Watts, their 2 teenage children, and the family's beloved pet Labrador were found in the eerie silence of their home, each room a scene of macabre horror. The townsfolk, once united in the glow of the Watts' hospitality, were now gripped by fear and whispers of a malevolent force that had descended upon their peaceful haven. Detective Elena Ramirez, a woman with a reputation for her relentless pursuit of the truth, arrived in Port Meridian with the promise of answers, but the deeper she delved into the lives of the Wattses, the more she uncovered secrets that threatened to consume her own sanity. As the storm raged on, Ramirez found herself ensnared in a web of lies, betrayal, and a darkness that seemed to lurk just beyond the veil of night, where the line between the living and the dead blurred into a haunting impossibility. In the shadowed crevices of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty sea breeze whispered secrets to the ancient oaks, the Watts family resided in a quaint, ivy-covered cottage that seemed to breathe with the rhythm of the waves. The Wattses were a family of 5, bound by love and laughter, each member a tapestry of warmth and joy that adorned the tapestry of their lives. Their days were filled with the sound of children's laughter, the clink of dishes in the kitchen, and the soft thud of a ball being tossed around in the backyard. But beneath the cheerful facade, a storm brewed, a tempest of darkness that would shatter the idyllic illusion and leave the town in shock and disbelief. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced across the garden, the Wattses were blissfully unaware that their world was about to be shattered into 1,000,000 irreparable pieces. For in the heart of this seemingly perfect family, a monster lurked, a creature of greed and madness that would emerge from the shadows to claim the lives of the innocent and the beloved, leaving behind a trail of sorrow and a town forever changed. In the heart of a sprawling metropolis where the skyline was a labyrinth of towering skyscrapers, and the streets were a symphony of honking cars and the clatter of footsteps, the Watts family lived in a grandiose mansion that seemed out of place among the modest homes of their neighbors. The family, known for their wealth and their seemingly perfect lives, was a subject of envy and admiration. But beneath the polished veneer of their opulent lifestyle, a dark storm was brewing. The night of the murders, as the city was enveloped in a thick fog that seemed to whisper secrets of its own, the mansion's grand doors clanged shut, and the world outside was oblivious to the terror that would soon unfold within its walls. The family, gathered around the grand piano in the music room, were oblivious to the ominous feeling that had settled over them. The air was thick with tension as the clock struck midnight, and the sound of the chimes seemed to echo in the silence. That night, the Watts family would become entangled in a web of mystery and horror that would shake the very foundations of their once secure world. In the shadowy alleys of a once thriving industrial town, the Watts family had been a beacon of community spirit, their sprawling estate a testament to their wealth and influence. The mansion, with its towering columns and sprawling gardens, had been the cornerstone of the neighborhood, a place where laughter and the clinking of glasses echoed through the night. But as the sun dipped below the horizon on a tranquil summer evening, the idyllic facade crumbled like sandcastles under the relentless tide of darkness. That night, the townsfolk awoke to a horror that would change their lives forever. The Watts family had been found murdered in their beds, their bodies drained of life, the air thick with the scent of fear and the taste of betrayal. The police arrived, their faces etched with shock and disbelief, as they pieced together the chilling details of the crime. The killer, it seemed, had left no clues, no fingerprints, no trace of a struggle, as if they had vanished into the very fabric of the night itself. The townsfolk whispered among themselves, their eyes wide with terror and their hearts heavy with sorrow, as they grappled with the unimaginable. A family, once a symbol of everything good and decent, now reduced to victims of a senseless, brutal crime. The story of the Watts family murders would become a legend, a tale of horror that would be told and retold for generations, a grim reminder that even in the darkest of times, the light of truth can sometimes be found in the most unexpected places. In the shadowy alleyways of a desolate city, the Watts family had thrived for generations, their names synonymous with power and wealth. The grand estate, a sprawling maze of marble and mahogany, was a testament to their success, a fortress of opulence that loomed over the decayed streets below. The head of the family, Enoch Watts, a man with a cold, calculating mind and a heart as dark as the night, ruled with an iron fist, his word law. But as the moon hung low in the ink-black sky, casting an eerie glow upon the sprawling mansion, a storm of tragedy brewed, one that would shatter the family's iron grip and plunge them into an abyss of despair. The night was as still as death itself when a single, chilling whisper of a gunshot shattered the silence, and the fate of the Watts dynasty began to unravel. In the hushed, rain-soaked town of Maplewood, the Watts family had long been the epitome of domestic tranquility, their sprawling Victorian home a beacon of warmth and laughter, its ivy-clad walls whispering tales of a life lived in harmony. Yet on a chilling autumn evening, as the world outside turned to a canvas of deepening shadows, the tranquility was shattered by a sound that would echo through the ages, a sound that heralded the descent into the abyss. The Watts family, once the darlings of the community, found themselves ensnared in a web of horror, each member a victim in a series of murders that left the entire town in a state of shock and disbelief. As the investigators combed through the shattered remnants of the Watts household, the secrets they uncovered revealed a twisted tapestry of deceit, greed, and betrayal, where the true monsters were not the ones that lurked in the dark, but the ones that walked among the living, their faces painted with smiles that masked the evil that burned within. In the quaint town of Willow Creek, nestled between the whispering pines and the MENDERING Chinese letter, the Watts family had always been the picture of idyllic American life. Mr. and Mrs. Watts, with their 3 vibrant children, were known for their warm smiles and generous hearts. Their sprawling colonial mansion, with its sprawling gardens and towering oak trees, was the epitome of wealth and comfort. Yet, on a moonless night shrouded in the scent of blooming azaleas, the serene facade of the Watts residence was shattered as the chilling sound of glass shattering and metal clanging echoed through the night. The town, once a haven of peace and tranquility, was now engulfed in a storm of shock and despair. As the first rays of dawn crept over the horizon, the Watts mansion lay in ruins, its once beautiful facade now marred by the telltale signs of a catastrophic tragedy. The local sheriff, a grizzled veteran named Hank Thompson, arrived on the scene to find the house ransacked, the furniture overturned, and the once luxurious rooms now filled with the macabre silence of horror. The Watts family, their laughter and daily banter now replaced by the haunting silence of death, had become the latest victims in a string of mysterious and unexplained crimes that had been rocking the town for months. The townspeople, their lives upended by the sudden, senseless violence, clung to one another for solace, their eyes reflecting the fear that had crept into their souls. As Hank pored over the evidence, piecing together the puzzle of what had transpired, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was no ordinary crime. The Watts family murders were about to unravel a web of secrets, deceit, and danger that would threaten the very fabric of Willow Creek's tight-knit community. And Hank was about to embark on a harrowing journey that would test his resolve and his heart like never before. In the shrouded alleys of a city long forgotten by the sun, the Watts family had been woven into the very fabric of the neighborhood, their name a whispered legend, a tapestry of tales passed down from generation to generation. The old-timers spoke of the Watts, a family so enigmatic that even the most seasoned detectives had failed to crack the code of their secrets. It was said that the Watts had a knack for the arcane, an uncanny ability to navigate the shadows of the city, their presence as elusive as the whispers of the wind. Yet, on a chill autumn evening, when the leaves began to whisper secrets of their own, the tranquility of the Watts household was shattered by a series of harrowing events that would forever etch the name of the Watts into the annals of infamy. The night of the murders was a night when the city's heart stopped beating, when the whispers of the wind turned into the chilling cries of terror, and when the shadows of the past reached out to embrace the present with a darkness so profound that even the bravest souls would cower in fear. In the eerie silence of a small, sun-dappled town nestled between rolling hills and whispering woods, the Watts family had been a beacon of tranquility for generations. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the quaint houses and cobblestone streets, while the scent of blooming jasmine filled the air. Yet beneath the serene facade, a dark storm brewed. It was a storm that would shatter the peace of this once peaceful community, one that would cast a shadow over the Watts family's name forever. On a fateful evening, as the stars began to twinkle in the velvet sky, a series of chilling events unfolded, each more sinister than the last. The townspeople, once content to go about their lives, found themselves gripped by fear and suspicion as they tried to unravel the mystery surrounding the Watts family murders. The story of what happened that night would become a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder that even the most idyllic of places could be hiding a horror beyond imagination. In the heart of a quaint coastal town nestled between rolling hills and the crashing waves of the Atlantic Ocean, the Watts family had been a cornerstone of the community for generations. Their sprawling estate, with its ivy-clad walls and sprawling gardens, was a beacon of prosperity and tranquility. The Wattses were known for their warm hospitality, their deep-seated roots in the town, and their philanthropic endeavors that touched the lives of countless residents. But on a stormy night, as the winds howled and the rain lashed against the windows, the idyllic facade of the Watts family was shattered by a tragedy that would echo through the ages. As the first rays of dawn broke through the stormy clouds, the townsfolk discovered the chilling truth. The Watts family had been wiped out in a brutal massacre, leaving behind a wake of shock, sorrow, and an insatiable thirst for answers. The police arrived to find the scene of horror, the bodies of Mr. and Mrs. Watts, their 2 adult children, and their beloved dog, all lying in a pool of blood in the grand foyer. The windows were shattered, the doors were kicked in, and the once hallowed halls of the Watts estate were now a scene of carnage. The townsfolk, who had always considered the Wattses to be the epitome of goodness and kindness, were now left to grapple with the unsettling reality that even the most seemingly perfect families could be the victims of such a heinous crime. As the investigation unfolded, whispers of conspiracy and dark secrets began to swirl through the town. The Wattses had been enigmatic figures, known for their reclusive nature and their vast wealth, which they had accumulated through a successful chain of seafood restaurants. Yet beneath the surface, there were whispers of financial troubles, long-standing rivalries, and hidden family feuds. The police, led by the tenacious Detective Harper, were faced with a daunting task: to unravel the tangled web of deceit and betrayal that had led to the Watts family's tragic end. As the investigation deepened, the town was thrown into chaos, with neighbors and friends questioning the true nature of the Watts family's relationships and their involvement in the mysterious events that had unfolded. The once peaceful coastal town was now a hotbed of speculation, fear, and a relentless pursuit of the truth. The story of the Watts family murders would become a legend, a cautionary tale of the darkness that can lurk within even the most unsuspecting communities. And as Detective Harper delved deeper into the case, she realized that the true horror of the Watts family's demise was not just the violence that had been visited upon them, but the chilling realization that the killer was still among them, watching, waiting, and perhaps even plotting their next move. In the shrouded, rain-soaked town of Willow Creek, the Watts family had been a beacon of community strength and familial love, their sprawling estate a testament to the prosperity that had come with the rise of the family's business empire. But as twilight descended upon the day that would forever change the fabric of Willow Creek, the idyllic setting was about to shatter into a nightmarish symphony of screams and sorrow. The estate, a labyrinth of grand halls and secret passages, had been the scene of countless festivities, where laughter and joy had echoed through its walls. Yet, as the first rays of the moon began to pierce the stormy clouds, the tranquility was shattered by a sound that could only be described as the howl of a beast, one that preyed upon the innocent. With a shiver that ran down the spine of every listener, the townsfolk whispered of a darkness descending upon the Watts residents, a darkness that had begun with a single, chilling event. A door, locked from the inside, that creaked open, revealing the macabre truth hidden within. In the hushed twilight of a sleepy coastal town, the Watts family was known for their unassuming lives, a tight-knit circle of laughter and love that echoed through the narrow streets. But as the first stars pierced the night sky, a shattering silence fell upon the community, for it was then that the town's peace was shattered by a darkness that would echo for generations. The murders began with a scream, a primal cry that sliced through the stillness, a sound so raw and desperate it seemed to come from the very heart of the night itself. The Watts residence, a modest two-story home nestled between towering pines, was soon enveloped in the flickering glow of police lights, and the lives of the once peaceful family were irrevocably altered. The town watched in shock as the story of the Watts family murders unfolded, each twist and turn a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the depths to which human evil could descend. The whispers began almost immediately, carried on the salty breeze, a chorus of questions and fears that would grow louder with each passing day. Who could have done such a thing, and why? As the investigators delved deeper into the lives of the Wattses, they uncovered a tapestry of secrets and sorrow, a story that was far more complex and twisted than anyone could have imagined. The once quiet town was now a sea of whispers and speculation, a place where every shadow seemed to hold a secret and every face held a story. And as the investigation unfolded, the true horror of the Watts family murders began to emerge, a chilling reminder that sometimes the monsters that walk among us are not the ones you see, but the ones you never see coming. In the eerie gloom of a rain-soaked night, the Watts family mansion loomed like a silent specter on the edge of the forest, its once grandiose facade now a patchwork of peeling paint and broken windows. Inside, the air was thick with the stench of decay and the lingering fear that had settled like a shroud over the decrepit abode. It was there, amidst the musty relics and forgotten memories, that the harrowing tale of the Watts family murders would begin to unravel, a tale that would grip the hearts and shatter the souls of all who dared to uncover its chilling secrets. The rain poured down with a relentless fury, hammering against the decaying roof as if nature herself were wailing a dirge for the victims who had fallen prey to an unimaginable horror. As the storm raged outside, the house's ancient clock ticked on in relentless monotony, a haunting reminder of the time that had slipped away from the once prosperous family, now reduced to the ghosts of their former selves. It was in this atmosphere of despair and dread that a young journalist named Alex, driven by a thirst for truth and a penchant for the macabre, decided to penetrate the shadowy veil that had enveloped the Watts estate, determined to expose the chilling truth behind the unsolved murders that had cast a dark pall over the town of Willow Creek for decades. Little did he know that his quest would lead him down a treacherous path, filled with deceit, danger, and the chilling realization that the true horror of the Watts family murders lay not just in the brutal deaths, but in the enduring legacy of evil that had been sown long before the first drop of blood was shed. In the shadowy confines of a dilapidated mansion on the outskirts of the sleepy town of Maplewood, a chilling silence reigned over the Watts family. The sun, a sullen orb, cast a dim glow through the dust-laden windows, while the creaking floorboards whispered secrets of the past. The once-proud abode had been stripped of its luster. Now a relic of yesteryear, it harbored the somber air of tragedy. It was here, amidst the decaying splendor, that the fateful night had unfolded, a night that would shatter the tranquil facade of Maplewood and plunge the community into a maelstrom of shock and despair. The townsfolk, accustomed to the gentle rustle of autumn leaves and the comforting laughter of children, found themselves grappling with the harrowing reality that violence could lurk just beneath the surface of their idyllic existence. The Watts family, once a beacon of warmth and laughter, had become the unwilling stars of a dark narrative that played out in the minds of every resident. As the morning sun finally pierced the darkness, revealing the grim truth, Maplewood would never be the same, forever altered by the haunting echoes of the Watts family murders. In the shrouded town of Willowbrook, where the whispering willows seemed to hold secrets as old as time itself, the Watts family reigned over a quiet, well-to-do neighborhood, their imposing Victorian mansion a silent sentinel against the encroaching night. The family was a tapestry of contrasting personalities, with patriarch Mr. August Watts, a stern yet respected lawyer, his wife, the enigmatic Mrs. Clara Watts, a philanthropist with a penchant for the unusual, their 3 children, and the loyal maid, Mrs. Jenkins, all weaving the fabric of their lives in the grand estate. It was during the height of summer, with the scent of blooming jasmine filling the air, that the tranquility of Willowbrook was shattered by a series of inexplicable events that would come to be known as the Watts family murders. As the moon hung low and silver, the Watts mansion became the focal point of a mystery that would entwine the lives of the townsfolk, the police, and a young, ambitious journalist named Emily Carter, who had no idea that her quest for the truth would lead her into a web of lies, betrayal, and the dark underbelly of human nature. In the shadowed streets of a once vibrant neighborhood, the Watts family, a close-knit unit of 5, was ensnared in a web of deceit and tragedy. It was a crisp autumn evening when the chilling news spread like wildfire through the community. The Watts residence, a modest yet cheerful home, had become the scene of a heinous crime. The family, consisting of the patriarch James Watts, his wife, Eliza, their 3 children, Sarah, age 12, Michael, 10, and Emily, 8, and their beloved golden retriever, Max, had been violently slaughtered. The streets were abuzz with whispers, the air thick with the scent of fear and the lingering stench of death. The police arrived at the scene, their flashlights piercing the darkness as they combed through the carnage, seeking clues that might unravel the mystery. Amidst the chaos, the Watts' next-door neighbor, a reclusive artist named Mr. Harrow, was spotted with a smudge of blood on his hands, his once serene studio now transformed into a scene of panic and inquiry. As the investigation deepened, the family's secrets began to surface, revealing a web of lies, betrayal, and a killer lurking in plain sight, ready to strike again.